Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we are finishing up the painting that we started in the last video, and to see the results you're going to have to stick around to the end. But I do want to thank you all for stopping, and again, thank you to everybody who's subscribed. And I did want to let you know that this, as well as some of my other pieces, are going to be available on my Etsy store, and you will find a link to that as well as some of my other social media in the description below the video. Stick around. Okay guys, so here I am with the painting and I'm about to get started. I have this Craft Smart Metal Leaf adhesive. I don't know if you guys can see that. I picked this up at Michael's. It's definitely not the top of the line stuff, but it will work. So what you're going for here is a tacky surface that's going to adhere the copper foil. So why am I not using something like either glue or the gel matte medium that we used to adhere with the collage? You can. It just depends on what you're doing. So if you're doing a large area, let's say I wanted to cover this whole canvas or a large portion of the canvas with the sheets of the foil, then it kind of doesn't matter what you're adhering it down with. Although I would say this is still probably the best medium to use. But what this does that the other doesn't do, I mean, the other stuff is glue. It stays wet until it dries, and that's how it adheres one thing to the other. This actually creates a tacky surface when it cures. So you put it down first and then you let it sit for about a half an hour, but the surface stays tacky so that when you're applying the foil to where you've put this down, it only sticks to that surface, but it actually sticks. It's not going to move around. The second it hits that, it's going to adhere instantly. So if you were using a glue or the matte medium, that's not going to happen. That's going to still be able to slide and move around, and your placement's going to be off. So basically that's why I'm using that. So what I did, I put a little bit of this just on a piece of paper plate, something, a piece of cardboard. I just poured a little bit out. It does have a very fine applicator tip, which is great. So you could get like writing or fine lines, but I'm going for something a little more organic looking, and I'm going to use like a plastic card, an old gift card, to apply so that I can get similar style lines that I already have on here to get some continuity into the piece. So I'm going to just pour a little bit of this out, and what I don't use, I'll just put back in the bottle because there's no sense in wasting it. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay. So I am back with my piece of paper that has the medium on it that we're going to use, and my gift card that I'm going to use to apply. You might also notice that I have some plastic sheeting taped up on my wall. The reason for that is when I apply the foil and brush the excess off, it's going to create a cascade of mess everywhere, and I just, A, don't want to have to worry about cleaning it up, and B, I'm going to keep all of those crumbs because they are definitely still usable. And actually for a project like this, if I was doing this flat on a surface, I might want the crumbs because then I can just throw them wherever. They're going to stick where the adhesive is and nowhere else, and then I can just brush the excess off. But for filming purposes, I'm doing this upright on the wall. And so I'm going to just go ahead and get started. I'm going to make some lines wherever I feel that they're going to look good. And then we're going to give this about a half an hour to dry, which of course I will pause you, and we'll come back later to apply the foil. So I'm just going to get started. Okay, you might notice that I didn't really overdo it with that, and for two reasons. Excuse me. One, I don't want the copper to overtake the entire piece. I want there to be a nice amount that's similar to the other lines that are up there. Also, I am going to go in with not only the lines, but one thing that you should know about me is I really love birds, especially in my art. And I made some bird stencils and bird masks out of some Duralar plastic. what we're gonna do is also go in with the stencils and place a couple birds around the piece in the foil so that it makes sense to have the copper lines, because you've got the lines and the birds, it's going to draw that together. You've got the lines with the painted lines, it's going to draw that together. So it'll pull the whole piece together nicely. So what I'm going to do is wait for these lines to draw so that when I put the masks and the stencils on, my hand isn't dragging through the stuff, because let me tell you, this is super sticky. Like, don't get it on anything or it will never come off. It'll just adhere to your hands, and I mean, it will come off, but it's a giant pain. So just try to be careful with it. And that's why I'm gonna let this dry first, and then we're gonna go back in, put the birds on, let the birds dry, and then apply all of the foil. So I will be back with you in about a half an hour when this dries. Okay guys, I am back. I've given this about 20 to 30 minutes to dry, and I am ready to start applying the first of the copper foil. All that I'm going to use for this is a very stiff bristled brush and a couple of sheets of the copper foil. And there's no real mystery to this. I'm just going to go in, and just start pressing it on. And there's going to be big chunks left after it, and then I'll use this brush to brush it off and make the clean lines, which is why, again, I have this plastic sheeting behind here. So I'm going to straighten the sheeting out and start to work. And when you're applying this, you can see, if you like look to the side, you'll see a little bit of a glare, and that's how you'll be able to tell where the adhesive is, just in case you were wondering. And you may notice I'm not going for full coverage on these lines. Again, I'm going for a much more organic feel to this. Okay, I think I've gotten everything, but I'm just going to give it a quick look to make sure. Okay, it looks pretty good. Now all I'm going to do is take this brush and brush off any of the excess that I don't want attached, that's kind of like loose and flaking off here. Okay, I'm pretty happy with the amount and the placement of that. And the next step is going to be to get the stencils and stencil out the birds that I'm going to put on there. I've already kind of decided where I'm going to put them. I'm thinking one here, and maybe one down here. I think it'll make a nice flow and also kind of balance everything out. So I'm going to go ahead and get my stencils, and I will be right back. Okay, this is the stencil that I'm going to use right now. And again, I made this just out of Duralar plastic. Just drew a shape and cut it out. And I'm thinking I'm going to have one roughly there, somewhere over in here. I want one down here. I think that's going to work. So I'm actually going to shut off the camera. I'm literally just going to trace the stencils on there. You all know how to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll be right back for the adhesive. Okay, I've got the birds drawn on, and I'm not 100% sure that you're going to be able to see them from that distance. So I think I'm going to take you in for a close-up. I just went in and traced all of my stencils on with a white gel pen, and I really only chose that because I knew I would be able to see it against the dark background. I wanted something with enough contrast. It doesn't really matter what you use as long as you're going to be able to see what you're doing to apply the adhesive, because once this is all done, it's going to all be covered up by the copper foil anyway. Okay, so I'm going to take you back to the stand and go ahead and start applying the adhesive. Okay, so I am ready to start putting the foil adhesive on. And I thought about the best way to do this because you can see that there's a lot of little tiny detail and sharp points on there that I don't necessarily want to capture every small detail of, but I do want to get the impression of sharpness in some places. So I decided that what I was going to use is a very well-loved palette knife. And this has a nice flat sharp point on it. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started. Okay, so I've got all of the fine detail work on the birds done, which I did with the palette knife. Now I'm just going to go in with some smaller brushes to fill in the bigger areas that don't have to be specifically done in great detail. So this will go a lot faster. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that real quick. All right. Well, you may have noticed that I was kind of erring to the outside of the white line, and that's just so that line isn't showing once I get the foil on there. If it is, it's no big deal because I can just go in and that'll come right off with water. And I'm actually going to probably take sandpaper to the area anyway because I don't want this to be a solid splotch of metallic copper. I'm going to want it to be a little bit weathered. So not worried about that at all, but I did want to kind of eliminate as much as possible just so I don't have a lot of extra cleanup work to do at the end. So we're going to go ahead, give this about a half an hour or so to dry, and then I will be back for you. Okay, everything is dried and we are ready to apply the gold foil. I'm so excited to see this piece done. It's been living in my head, mostly not completed for a while, so I can't wait to actually see the finished product. Let's get going. Now, one last thing I'm going to do is go get a piece of sandpaper because there are a couple areas here that have a little too much of a solid look to them, and I want to kind of tame that down just a hair. So I will be right back. Okay, I just have a little tiny piece of a fairly heavy grit sandpaper because I want to make sure that this all comes off. Okay, I think we have a finished piece here. I'm pretty happy with it. It looks kind of like what I wanted it to in my head, and that's always what we're going for. So I don't know. I think this is a winner, and I want to thank you guys so much for being here with me through the process. I'm going to be doing more videos in this same style. I have a whole bunch of unfinished pieces. I'll start backgrounds and then get a little too, I don't know what the word is, like I'll make this really cool background and not be able to finish it because the background is so perfect that whatever I put on it has to be so perfect, which is not the case. Don't do that to yourself. If you're an artist, I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's paint and canvas, and if you don't like it, you can just paint over it. So that's what I'm going to start doing. I am going to randomly pull some unfinished pieces and we're going to work on them together. And me doing this on video is kind of forcing me to get out of my comfort zone a little bit and have to finish them. So thank you guys so much for stopping by yet again. If you're brand new here, please give me a subscribe. It helps my channel so much. And guys, have a great day. See you soon.